Hey, shalom to the hopeful elect. First and foremost, I'd like to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders at Great Millstone who teach the truth and rule well. This is the brother Yatabia Wa'ala coming back from the GMS SF Bay Area camp. I got a quick lesson today. All right, Lord's will is edifying. It's something that we go over, again and again. Sounds like a broken record. But it never fails that these so-called Christians, and our people, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are so-called Christians, which are really the true Israelites according to the Bible, they have no understanding of the gospel. All right, neither do they understand the promises given from the Heavenly Father. In primarily, one of the main promises is a rulership, a kingdom. All right, the scriptures say we're going to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. And if you just look in history, all right, when a king was in power, nobles, what did they have? They had serfs, they had peasants, they had slaves, all right, they had people to do the work for them. That's just how kingdoms go. All right, but our people, they lack, like Apostle Dahar says, they lack that kingdom mentality. They're stuck in the positions that Esau has us in, and ultimately that the Lord has put us in according to the curses, and they can't think anything above it. They want Esau to be right there with us, in the kingdom on the same level, playing field. They want the heathen on the same level, in the kingdom, but that's not according to the gospel. Okay, that's not what the Lord has set up. All right, and our people need to get the hell out of that base mentality. All right, you have to step into that rulership mentality. Okay, but I'll start with this. Is Isaiah 14. Actually, let me start with this real quick. What is it? Isaiah 28. All right, because this is how we understand, the doctrine. All right, to understand promises, you got to go precept upon precept, and then, you go into the promises, you go into the kingdom mentality. Having slaves is in the scriptures. It's all throughout the scriptures. All right. This is Isaiah 28, and I'll start at verse 9. It says, "Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept." So how do we go in? How do we understand the truth? Okay, you have to go precept upon precept, which a precept is just a line in the scriptures. All right, so if you, like, for instance, this Isaiah 28 and 10, that's a precept. Isaiah 28 and 11, that's a precept. John 3 and 16, that's a precept. All right, it says line upon line, here a little and there a little. So there's certain scriptures that are all throughout, the New, the Old, the Apocrypha, that line up to help you understand certain points of the doctrine. All right, certain prophecies. Okay, the promises. They come together like a puzzle, so to speak. All right, and if you don't have those precepts lined up, you won't understand certain things of the scriptures. All right, now you can go into history. All right, you can go into prayers. All right, those things is pretty straightforward. But when it comes to the deeper sayings or the dark sayings, all right, you have to go precept upon precept. Okay, and the scriptures say the Lord revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So these things are being broken down, especially by the men of the Lord, starting from our apostles and elders on down. All right, but it says, "For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little." All right, now this is how we understand doctrine. Now let's go. Isaiah 14 and 1. All right, it says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel." Okay, and why? Why is it that Jacob and Israel, which is a representation, all right, of the northern and southern kingdom, all right, is the Israelites as a whole, why does he have to have mercy? Well, because the Israelites, all right, the northern and southern kingdom, are in full brunt of the curses. Okay, the scriptures say we are yet this day in our captivity. All right, we are being oppressed by the so-called white man and all these heathen. All right, we are in a low position. So now it's saying, according to the promise, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, proving that we're not in that land. All right, proving that the people over there are imposters. All right, they are not the true Israelites. Okay, it says, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And this is a representation of Israelite foreigners. All right, so Israel as a whole, okay, whether they were foreigner, whether they were scattered, all right, ultimately will be set up in that land. All right, it'll start with the elect, okay, and then, you know, after the second death, and the rest of the 2/3 of the nation of Israel will be reborn by the loins of the elect in the kingdom. All right, and we'll all be together. It says, verse 2, and the people shall take them. Who is this talking about? Who are the Israelites going to take? They're going to take the heathen. If you can receive it, it says, and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord. All right? Salakia. Bear with me. It says, let me read that again. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. So again, they are going to be our possession. Now, real quick, let me jump over here and I'll jump back. Psalms 2, and straight to the point, verse 8. It says, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen, all right, the heathen, these other nations, for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. They're going to be an inheritance and a possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. And the point is what? The heathen are going to be our possession. The heathen are going to be our inheritance. We are going to be selling the heathen. All right, we're going to be giving the heathen. We're going to be breeding the heathen, breeding Edomites. All right, righteously, of course. And what? In selling them off. All right, there's going to be a slave trade. Okay, if you can receive it. And again, you know, in a kingly mindset, all right, in a noble mindset, this is understanding. Okay, this is what happens in kingdoms. Okay, and especially, you know, understanding the just power of the Lord. All right, the scriptures say he shall not acquit the wicked. So Esau and the heathen, they have to pay for what they've done. All right, and you know, the Lord is just. So after that 1,000 years, they'll go into their own land. All right, they'll still be tributaries. And nonetheless, you know, they're still going to, you know, want to see the glory of the Lord, you know, by way of the Israelites. But, you know, for the first 1,000 years in the kingdom, they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to be slaves. Okay? It says, thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. And we'll be able to have the power to do that because they are our inheritance. All right? Now, again, that comes with understanding. All right, verse 2 again, Isaiah 14:2, it says, and the people shall take them, take the heathen, and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And again, servants and handmaids, that's just another name for slaves. All right, you know, people want to get all bent out of shape of what slaves are. You know, we're slaves here, you know, employees, we're employees. Employees is it's a synonym for slave. Okay, servant, that's a slave. Handmaid, that's a slave. You know, just because, you know, we had that, you know, that connotation of slaves based on how Esau had it. All right, well, yes, we're going to have slaves, okay? It says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And again, this is just. All right, this is justice. They had us in captivity. We are in a captivity right now. We've been in captivity for hundreds of years. All right, we can Psalms the 83rd chapter. You know that was a conspiracy that these nations came together to put us in the positions to sell us off. All right, you had Ishmael making the boats. You had Ham selling us. You had Amalek, Esau, all involved. all right? Every different nation had a point in slavery, in putting us in slavery and oppressing us. Okay? So now what? The Lord is going to turn the tables. And again, this is a noble mentality to understand these things. All right? No, they have to pay. All right? That's justice. All right? That's right. Okay? Now let me jump over here real quick. Revelation 13:10, it says, start of verse 9, it says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. So if everybody has an ear, right? But this is, if any man can understand, okay? If you have a mentality, a mindset to accept these things, all right? And this is what we're to accept. This is the words of the Lord. All right, this is the promises. If you can't accept it, it shows you that you're in a mentality where Esau has beat you, all right, and won your mind. Okay? It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And we have the records. All right? We know who led us into captivity. Okay? Starting with what? Esau, Edom, Amalek, his top tribe, the small hats. It says, he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And again, this is New Testament. So this is a precept, all right? Precept upon precept. We just went to Isaiah 14, Psalms, the 2nd chapter. Now we're in the New Testament, in Revelation, the 13th chapter, all right? Now it says what? Here's the patience and faith of the saints. So the saints, okay, the Israelites, those who truly believe in the gospel, which is the good news, they have the understanding and the faith to know that these heathens, starting with Esau, will go into what? Slavery, captivity. It's the same thing. All right, it's a synonym. Captivity is the same thing, the same meaning as slavery. All right? There has to be a justice. There has to be a recompense, so to speak. All right? For what they've done, they don't get away scot-free. All right? Hey, the Lord, even though the Lord has, had patience and let this man rule, and he hasn't judged them accordingly, he lets them build up that tab to where they will be judged accordingly. Okay, part of that judgment is, his utter destruction of his power structure here, and also what? Going into captivity, all right, which is slavery. So again, this is the patience and the faith of the saints, all right? Psalms, the 2nd chapter, and verse 25, Salakia, Revelation, the 2nd chapter, verse 25, it says, but that which you have already hold fast till I come. And what is this talking about? This truth, all right? The understanding. And part of that understanding is what? Slaves. Revelation, verse 26, he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. Okay, so those who endure, which in reality is the elect, Lord's will we be of that number, they're going to have power over the nations. What does that mean? It's going to continue, verse 27, which it's reiterating Psalms, the 2nd chapter. It says, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So Yahushua has received this power from Yahweh, and Lord's will we be of that number. He's going to have joint heirs, all right? The elect are going to be joint heirs, and ultimately the whole nation of Israel, all right? But it's going to start with the elect, and they're going to have what? That same power to rule the nations, okay? Just like how Yahushua has, all right? So again, and this is reiterating what was said in Psalms, the 2nd chapter, and we just read it, that the Lord is going to give the heathen as a possession, all right, an inheritance. So this is what's coming in the kingdom. This is part of the good news. So again, our people bucking out, wanting to be on the same level as a heathen, that's not a position. All right, the heathen are going to be in the kingdom, all right, but they have a position to uphold, just like we have a position to uphold. They're not going to be having the blessings, all right? No, it's not their time for the blessings, all right? They're having their blessings now. They're living, their heaven now. But the Lord is going to give us our heaven, okay, and put these heathen in their hell. And again, and why is it? The controversy of Zion, for what they did to us. what they continue to do to us, they have to be recompensed. All right, there has to be a justice, and the Lord said he will do that. All right. Psalms 149 and verse, let me just start from the top. All right, it's a short chapter. Okay, it says, praise ye the Lord, sing unto the Lord a new song in his praise in the congregation of the saints. Who are the saints? The Israelites. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of Zion be joyful in their king. Let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and harp. For the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. So again, this is salvation. All right, in the kingdom, what's going to happen? It says, let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds, pure rest, pure joyfulness. All right? And, you know, another misconception, all right, which is, you know, a topic for another lesson, is the misconception that, you know, the kingdom is just some place in the clouds, all right, when you die. No, the kingdom is a rulership set on earth, all right? It tells you in the Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. All right, the Lord has promised a kingdom to the Israelites, starting with the elect on earth. All right, that's why, you know, this is what we look forward to. This is part of the good news. Okay, it says, let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hands. So, and this is literally going to be in our hand, a two-edged sword, to execute vengeance upon the heathen. This is what it is, vengeance. All right, let's see. I just want to, what is that word? What is that? Nakama? All right, if I'm saying that right. Vengeance by the Most High, by Israel, by enemies of Israel. Avengement, whether the act or the passion, vengeance, which it doesn't really say. Let me see. Let me look it in the dictionary real quick. It says vengeance. This is just the Google or Bing definition. Punishment inflicted or retribution exacting for an injury or wrong. So again, punishment for something that they exacted for injury. And what did they do? All right, this is a just punishment for what these heathen have done to the nation of Israel. Okay, so that's vengeance. Just. It says to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. Okay, and you know, this is exactly what they did to us. You know, you can Google yoke of iron. The first thing that comes up is a Jake with that yoke of iron. But this is going to happen with their kings and their nobles, their people. Okay, to execute upon them the judgment written. All right, and we've been reading the judgment written, slavery. This honor have all his saints, praise ye the Lord. So again, this is the patience and faith of the saints to execute that vengeance. Okay, that just punishment on these heathen. Okay, we're going to have our memories back. We're going to know everything that these heathen and the Edomites have done. I mean, we know what, just an inkling of what they've done now. You know, these devils have kept the receipts. They told on themselves. Okay? So just what we know now, you know, this judgment is just. But hey, the scriptures talk about everything that they've done to us. All right? So there has to be a just punishment. All right? A recompense for what they've done to us. And this is the faith of the saints. All right? And I'll end off on this Isaiah 49. And verse 22, straight to the point. It says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh Shem Shai, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. And again, this is the promise. All right, these kings, these nobles, these queens, they're going to bow down. They're going to be put in their rightful place. as slaves, all right, as servants, as handmaids to the elect and the nation of Israel. Okay? So again, just wanted to bring this out. A slavery is a part of the gospel. Yes, it's in the scriptures. All right. Now, if our people can't understand it, especially those, who call themselves believe in the Bible, it just shows you they don't have understanding, and neither do they have faith in the gospel. All right. Because if they had faith in the gospel, we were just reading it. This is part of the gospel. All right. This is the faith of the saints to have this just punishment, okay, for what they've done to us. All right. Hey, Lord's will, this is edifying. Once again, I want to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachak Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders at Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect and above.